Perfect. Okay. So let's jump on into the dashboard. Like we said, this is AddEvent. For anybody that has not yet logged in, this is what you would see when you log in. If you have logged in, then this should look nice and familiar. I first want to talk through a little bit about what's going on the dashboard. So on the left-hand side here, you can see any calendars that you have. If you're on your account, you'll probably see one called Main Calendar. You've got this big Create button up here. And then on the right is where you've got some of our navigation stuff. So your account information, analytics, if you have access to that, et cetera. But first things first, let's talk about events and jump on in. So if you haven't yet created an event, this is going to be really helpful for you, hopefully. On the left, like I said, we've got this big create button. If we go ahead and click that, that's going to drop open an event or a calendar. So this is how you could create your event. We also, right now we're in the upcoming events list view, but if we change, or sorry, the all events view, if we change this to the calendar, you can also create an event by double clicking or single clicking on the tile. So a couple different ways that you can get to create an event. Just wanted to make sure we covered all three, but for now, I'm just going to use the event create button on the top left. So if I click create event, it's going to go ahead and prompt me to fill in our event information. This looks pretty familiar probably if you've used a Google Calendar, or I think Outlook's pretty fairly similar, but maybe a little bit different. So I'll just go ahead and type Marissa example. This is going to be the name of your event. So this is going to be external facing as well. If you have multiple different versions of maybe the same event for different cohorts or whatever, it might be helpful for you to give it a different internal name. So Marissa example, or one, let's say. Not necessary to do the internal name, but if that's helpful for you, then feel free to use that. Of course, we'll fill in all of our date, time information as such. It's going to default to whatever day you clicked on, or if you clicked from the create, it'll default to today. And then go ahead and just change that time. So I'm going to actually make this for tomorrow. Our account is set to GMT -7, which is the America Los Angeles time zone, but this should reflect your default one. If you need to change it to a specific one, you are more than welcome to click into there and change it. But just know that it will automatically show in the end user's time zone for them. Right below that, we've got checkboxes for all day, reoccurring, RSVP, and then you might notice over here this little event series kind of button, hyperlink. If this is an all-day event and you don't want it to go from a specific time to a specific time, you can go ahead and check that all-day box. If it's multi-days, you can then go ahead and change that in here so it's a full week now. I'm just going to uncheck that all day and leave that as such. The next thing is that we will talk about is reoccurring events. So if you have something that's reoccurring on a schedule, say every week, you might want to use a reoccurring event. Right now, you'll see it gave me the error because it was repeating every Wednesday, but this event is on a Thursday. So I would change that. And then you can say if you want it to never end and reoccur forever, if you want it to end after X amount of occurrences or on a specific date. So those are our recurring options. An important thing to note about this is if you are using this reoccurring option, you're unable to edit or delete any of the occurrences that happen aside from the first one. So this is essentially creating an event that's like not copied and pasted, but essentially all in one event. An event series is going to be really helpful if you're looking to create a bunch of events at the same time. This sometimes people will use kind of instead of a recurring event if they want to be able to edit or delete these because this is creating a one-off event. So it's kind of a somewhat confusing concept until you're super comfortable with it. But if you are looking to be able to edit and delete any future ones, you would want to go ahead and use the event series. Otherwise, reoccurring will be fine and dandy for you. Additionally, we will get into RSVPs, but if you want to make your event an RSVP event, you would use this checkbox. But we'll come back to get into RSVPs afterwards. So this right here is where you would put your description. So this is your description box. Similar to, a lot of different editors that you've probably used in your lifetime, you can use these as such to kind of customize and stylize this as you please. And then as we continue down, this location of your event is going to be where you can, of course, put if there is a physical location. If there's not a physical location, you can also put a Zoom link in here or whatever, virtual link you might want. If you have your location as a new location that you're adding, it will allow you to pop up with the address. And then when somebody adds this to their calendar, if they click into that address, it will pop up with the map option. So just keep that in mind if you want to use the address that is opening in the maps. Next up down here, we have the host information. I'm just trying to think of the word. So right now it's going to populate with whatever the account information is on your account, but let's just say AddEvent is our organizer, and we want this to be from AddEvent at addevent.com. Very original name. And from here, this is not going to really like do much. It's just for display purposes. So it's not going to send emails from that email address, just so you know. But this is very handy, especially if you're working in a professional organization where you want it to come from kind of the organization, or if you're hosting and creating this event on behalf of somebody else, it's really helpful to be able to put that organizer information in there. Next up, we have this notify users before the event begins. This is going to function like the notification that you would experience on your regular calendar. Really important to note here, though, this is going to be what's default set on this event. However, when somebody adds your event to their calendar, if they have a calendar specific setting set up for this, for example, my personal one is 30 minutes before the event starts, but maybe in AddEvent, I had set it to 5 minutes. It's going to respect whatever your end user's personal notification setting is. Unless they don't have it turned on to a specific thing, then it will follow this. So do keep that in mind. That's just some limitations based on, the calendar platforms. That's nothing we can override. So if that is important, just make sure you are communicating with users. And then right here is this template for the event landing page. For anybody that is on a paid plan, you can customize your templates, and we can set up another webinar in the future to go into template customizations. There's a ton you can do there. It's very exciting. But for anybody on hobby plan, you'll see the standard template right here for you. And then lastly, the calendar. So when I was in my dashboard, you might have noticed all the calendars on the side. I was currently clicked into the networking calendar. So when I go to create that event, it's going to automatically put that on the calendar that I'm clicked into. Again, this would say main calendar for anybody that hasn't created any calendars or hasn't renamed their calendar. So for me, I'm just going to pop this in our one-off events and give this an example since I created a new one. Perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit create here. And now we can go ahead and see all of the different sharing options. So first things first, you'll notice this basically up here is going to be a summary, more or less, of everything that you just created, every specific, description, if you gave it a location, etc. If you realize you forgot something, that's totally fine. Don't panic. You can go back and edit it, and it'll take you back to this page where you can then add additional descriptions, etc. So I didn't mean to click out of that. My bad. Okay, clicking back in. Moving down, we have the sharing options. So this is how you are going to share your event to your end user, hopefully get them to come to your event. By default, we as AddEvent create an event landing page for you. So if you click this event page link, it's going to show you what the event landing page looks like, and it will put any of your information in here. Of course, I've done example, so it's kind of underwhelming. And then, the add to calendar functionality works as such. If you are on a paid plan, again, this is where you would be able to change the landing page here. But if you're on the hobby, that's still like perfect and dandy. It looks great. We also provide a short link. So if you're trying to send this out on socials and you don't want the super long one, you can use that. Or if you're using it in SMS, wherever you want to use. Moving down, we have the option to turn on an access code. This is really handy if you are trying to basically, not keep this open to the general public. If this is maybe a VIP event or something you just want internal folks only to see, you can go ahead and put the access code on, and then you can put in whatever you like. So I put in pizza because I love pizza. And then once you hit save, if we go ahead now and try to load this page, again, it's going to ask you for the access code, and I would put pizza, and then now I can access it. So that's great if you, want, again, to keep it kind of closed to the general public and only to people that you are specifically trying to invite, but otherwise you can keep it off. Moving down, this is where you can customize the event landing page. Custom templates webinar, we can do that another day. That's a whole bag of worms to open. Moving on down, we've got the add to calendar links. So you'll see there's a couple different styles out of the box. These add to calendar links are really handy for emails, for newsletters, different campaigns like that, where you're not embedding it onto, your website or your landing page. You can, of course, put these on websites and landing pages too, but we find that most people are using them for emails, newsletters, things like that. Also, you can see that there's the 3 styles, but we also have this new option where you're able to customize the style yourself using our little editor. So you can specify if you've got a brand color that you want to use. You can change it to be icon, to text, et cetera, et cetera. And then you can save that configuration and that will replace the first one there. So that's a quick, easy way to do it. Other thing that is important to note is if you want to copy this, obviously it's beautiful to look at, but you want to put it somewhere like your email, you could go ahead and click to view this code and then copy it in here and paste it into your email provider or whatever way you're looking to share it. You can also use this copy button, but some of the different editors get a little bit funky with that. So we highly recommend using the source code instead. Moving on, we have the add to calendar button. This is hopefully familiar by now, since we've seen it a couple of times here. This is where you would embed the add to calendar button on your website, on your landing pages. Very similarly, we've got the 2 different styles here. See, there's those links again that we mentioned. And in here, you can also, again, customize for a specific color, for a specific, stylized option. So those are very helpful, that little customization piece. And then to go ahead and grab that code, again, you would copy and paste from there or copy and paste from here, depending on what editor you're using. Next up, we have the direct links. So when you look at, for example, this, essentially each of these has their own little link in it. If you are sending to just Gmail users or Google Calendar users rather, or Office 365 users, and you know exactly what calendar they're using, you can use these direct links. But quite honestly, I wouldn't recommend it because sometimes people like to invite their personal calendars or, whatever it might be. So you can absolutely use direct links, but the link is specific to that specific calendar. So if you, get people asking why it's not working, that might be why. And then lastly is the embeddable event. And this is similar to the button, but this kind of gives all the little basics of the event in one tile view. And this is really handy for websites, for landing pages. It's got the add to calendar button, but also, the details in it. So we love those. I promised we'd come back to RSVPs. So we are going to jump back to the top, and I'm actually going to click into this event and we'll go through really quickly, just changing it to an RSVP event. So like I said, if I'm going to put example RSVP event, if you had, made a mistake, didn't put it as RSVP initially, that's okay. We can come back and we can add that. Similarly, we have the different RSVP forms that you can create for anybody on a paid plan. Otherwise, it's going to be the standard RSVP form, which will automatically be applied in your account. And once you hit save, you'll notice that a little bit has changed on the event details page. So now when we scroll down, we can see RSVP and settings here. And this is really helpful. I think one thing I maybe didn't mention before is if you don't set this as an RSVP event, you won't have any indication of who has added your event to their calendar. So the RSVP is quite handy if you would like to know who has added it to their calendar. So when we look at this, this is the attendee management kind of page here. I'm going to quickly open up our page just so I can RSVP to this and add it to my calendar. Cool. Great. And coming back to here, we can now see that I have RSVP'd to this event. This is really handy. We can see the status is going. If people have RSVP'd as maybe or no, that's also something you can collect. You can get all of my information that I've provided, so my email, my name, and then some IP address information. If you don't want to be collecting personal PII, we can definitely turn that off and all the IP address information will be anonymized. So keep that in mind. And then as we move on, we can set seat limits. This is helpful if you, are doing, again, maybe a smaller event like a VIP dinner or maybe, a webinar where you don't want too many people because you want it to be Q&A style. Once that's hit that limit, then you can put a little message that you'd like it to show. Otherwise, the default is going to be set to no limit. Don't forget to save everything as you're going through. Next up, we have notifications. So you can set up notifications for when you get a new RSVP. By default, I believe this should be set to no thanks, I'll check manually. And then you can basically do for every time a new user RSVPs, or you can do a daily summary instead. Depending on, again, the volume that you're expecting, you might not want every single time a new user RSVPs, but it is quite handy to have the summary. And then lastly, we've got the send to an attendee list. So right here, you can specify, of course, what account email address, you want to send it to. So if I was doing mine, I could do Marissa at AddEvent. And then the attendee list right here is going to allow you to basically share the RSVPs to other people in your organization or vendors or whomever you might need. So this is really helpful if people are constantly, or not constantly, but needing updates on who's RSVP'd. And the other thing here is if you hit this little refresh, this is going to refresh and change the token, basically the RSVP link here. Once you've refreshed it, this old one will no longer work. So do keep in mind not to refresh it unless for some reason there's a breach and somebody has gotten access to it that doesn't need it. Otherwise, everybody that you've shared it with won't be able to, of course, access it. Then lastly, on the RSVP settings, we have inactive. Essentially here, you can check this to say, this event is inactive. We're no longer collecting RSVPs for this. This is helpful if it's passed or if you want to close it at a certain time. Or alternatively, you can use the disable RSVPs X amount of time before the event happens. So for this, say an hour before the event occurs, you don't want to collect anymore. Or if it's an in-person event, maybe a day before, you don't want to let any more in. So that is what this last chance to RSVP function is. Lastly, on the front one, I kind of skipped over this, but you can email attendees. So everybody that has RSVP'd, you would have their email address. So you can send to either everybody going, maybe going, can't go, or any combination. And then you can go ahead and add your subject line and message in here for them. And that is going to give you a way to, communicate if there's anything that you want to send out. And then moving down, everything is the same for the most part, except instead of the add to calendar button now, it's an RSVP button. This is going to go ahead and take you to the RSVP landing page since you need to collect that information. And then for the embeddable, instead of having just the embeddable add to calendar with the description, here you can actually embed the RSVP form. So this is really handy if you've got a website or a landing page already for your event and you just want to chuck the RSVP form in there. That way they don't have to leave your existing page. Okay, that is kind of everything that I wanted to touch on for the events. I'm going to pass over to Aoife real quick so she can touch on calendars and get into the weeds on that stuff.
Thanks, Marissa. Okay, yeah. So for the second half of the demo, we're just going to run through everything to your calendars. So starting off from my AddEvent dashboard, we have, so as Marissa mentioned, we have a list of all of the calendars down on the left here. And we also have them color coordinated, which is super handy for you as an AddEvent user to just kind of differentiate each of your calendars. We're currently looking at a calendar view, but we can also change the view as well. So up in the top right corner, once you click calendar, you can also go into schedule and then a list of all of your events as well. We also have the search bar up here so you can search for a specific calendar or event in your account. So I'm going to go back over here to the create button and click calendar instead. So you'll see this blue dot here. This will be for you as the user in your dashboard if you want to set a color to the calendar. I'm going to leave it as is for the moment. We'll give it a new name. So there's a ton you can do in here when you are creating your calendar. And the first section here will be a little description box. So any additional information you want to share with your users when you're sharing your calendar, you can pop in here. Leave that there. You also can set a time zone for your calendar. So anytime you're creating an event, this will be the time zone that the events are created in. The standard templates. So as Marissa was talking about a little bit earlier, you can create a custom template for your event landing pages. And then when you set that template to the calendar from here, you are setting it for all of the events that are created in the calendar. So super handy if you do want to include all your own branding and you don't have to go and individually apply those to the events. Display settings, so just whichever day you'd like the calendar to start on. A color palette, this is really handy if you are going to embed your calendar on a website. And we have the standard AddEvent color palette here. And this just allows you to assign a color to each of your events, so it's easier for you and your end users to distinguish between the different types of events. And it's also a great way to include your own branding and colors as well. So yeah, that's the standard AddEvent one. Once you click into change and new, you can go ahead and create a totally new palette in there. The next section to import or sync events from external calendars. So if you have created a ton of events on another calendar, but you want to use AddEvent to share those events, this is where you're going to import that external calendar. So what I'd have to do is just create this calendar first and then come back to that page and then we can import it. But yeah, a really handy way if you want to share all of your events with AddEvent. The only thing to note here is that you wouldn't be able to edit those events within AddEvent. You'd have to go to the original external calendar to edit those events. And then calendar subscribers. So if you're sharing your calendar as a subscription calendar and you're collecting those subscribers, you have two options. So you could allow people to subscribe anonymously, or you could select I would like to know and then collect information from users as they subscribe. So the default is name and email address, but you can also add various other custom fields to the form. So yeah, so field text, this is where you'll pop in your question. So I'll just say US state. And then the drop down here will be the type of response your subscribers can give. So you could do text, number, multiple options. I'm going to skip down to US states and create that here. You also have a little checkbox here if you want the question to be mandatory, depending whether you need that information from your subscriber. So go ahead and create the calendar. So once you create the calendar, you're brought back to your dashboard and we want to go to the calendar page. So when you hover over the calendar name, you click the three dots and then you can go back and edit the calendar from here or into calendar page. So this looks super similar to what we saw in the demo earlier. The top section up here is a quick overview of the calendar details. You can also go back and edit the calendar from here, duplicate, delete, or set it as the primary calendar in your AddEvent dashboard. The first section is subscribers. So we don't have any subscribers yet, so I'm going to skip over that for the moment and come back. And then our sharing methods. So the calendar landing page, it's a great way to share your calendar on your socials. If you want people to subscribe to the calendar. We have two links available. We have a link to the calendar page and then a short link that you can share via SMS. You can also, again, enable an access code on that calendar landing page. If you need to stop some users from accessing it, you just want to limit it a little bit. And then custom calendar landing page. So very similar to the event landing page, you can customize your calendar landing page. So you can include your own branding, your own style, pretty much everything. But we'll have a quick look at the standard AddEvent one. So for your end users, the flow will work as they click follow calendar. They need to input their details. And then click continue. And then they'll be brought to the final page to click add to calendar, and they'll select the calendar relevant to themselves. So once I click Google Calendar, add this in here. And it should load down here now in a second. There we go. So my demo calendar is now in there. If we go back over to our AddEvent page, and I'm going to go back to subscribers, quick refresh, and now we can see that information is in under subscribers. So we can see I'm an active subscriber, and AddEvent will assign an ID number to the subscriber, which calendar I used, every time my Google Calendar and AddEvent calendar sync. And then the name and email and US state, which is the information we collected. And again, you have the IP address as well. You'll also be able to see when I subscribe to the calendar and then every time my Google Calendar and AddEvent calendar synced in here. And when you click into all subscribers, you can also download a list of all of your subscribers as a CSV file, and you can delete subscribers from in here as well. So back to the other sharing methods, pretty much what you saw earlier. So we have the add to calendar links again, which are for your emails, newsletters, and campaigns. You have the standard links available in here, or you can click on new and then create custom links as well. But yeah, we do recommend using the source code in here just to make sure it'll work with your email platform. And then we have the Add to Calendar button. So the Add to Calendar button is for your websites and landing pages. And this is exactly what we saw on the landing page earlier. So once your users click Add to Calendar, all the major calendar applications will pop up, and they can customize the button by clicking New in here as well. The direct links, again, these are the links that you see in the icons in here. So you can choose to share just a direct link with your users if you know, maybe if you're using it for an internal team and you know what calendar everyone uses, but we do recommend to use an Add to Calendar button or the Add to Calendar links, just to give users the options for the different calendars. And then the embeddable calendar. So the embeddable calendar is a great way to display all of your events on your website. You can also lay over different calendars on your website so they can see everything that's going on within your organization. And so I'm going to go into customize and share. And we'll have a quick look at the settings down here. So we have everything that on the left-hand side is for use the AddEvent user, what you want to show on the embedded calendar. So at the moment, everything is selected by default, but you can also remove this. Maybe you want to remove the print icon here and stop them from printing. You can change the default view for users. You can also change the start date, the time format, and then calendar to display, which I think is one of the best features about the embeddable calendar. You can display multiple calendars on the embedded calendar. So select them all for the moment. So now we have all the calendars selected. So this gives your user the opportunity to select the ones they'd actually like to view. So this is what they'll see in here. So if I go over to calendars, and now I'll just see the relevant calendar. So we don't have anything in my personal demo calendar, but this is just what your end users will see. From here, they can also subscribe to the calendar and change the view themselves. We have all of the embed options just up here. You can find those in there. And back to the last one. The last one is the embeddable events list. So very similar to the embeddable calendar, except it's just going to be a list of the events from this one calendar. So it's nice and small, easy to embed onto your website, and your users can also subscribe to the calendar from there as well. So I think that is everything for the demo. So I'm going to hand you back over to Marissa.
Perfect. Let me go ahead and just give me one last second. Gorgeous. So just to recap, want to make sure that this all tracks. We covered event landing pages, we covered subscription calendars, embeddable calendars and events, RSVP buttons, links, and landing pages. I will say too, which I didn't mention before, that RSVPs will automatically send out emails for anybody that's RSVP'd to your event, and that would happen default 1 week and 1 day before, but you can edit that. And then we covered add to calendar button and links. So we, I think, got all the basics that we wanted to cover. And like we said, we will set up some additional webinars for maybe some more advanced features like automated or custom landing pages or all that good stuff. So without further ado, we highly suggest go log into the dashboard if you haven't already, play around, subscribe to the AddEvent calendar. That's going to have any of our upcoming events for webinars. And every time we do, a new blog post, that way you can see that there. And let us know. You can reach out to our support team at support@addevent.com if you'd like to get set up for a trial for the paid plans. That's a free trial, and that way you can test out things like the automated events, custom landing pages, custom templates, etc. And we'll go ahead and send you guys all a post webinar recording of this in an email, and that way you can rewatch it if you need, and that should have all of our contact information. So thank you again for joining, everybody. I hope this was helpful, and we look forward to seeing all the fun events you create.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.